Hi everyone, welcome back to Valley View Flower Farm. It is mid-May and I thought we better get around to doing another flower farm tour. We've just had our first frost this morning, so let's have a look at what damage was sustained in the garden. Not much really, it looked only to be a light frost, and see what we've got going on. Thanks for tuning in. So for those of you who haven't been here before, I garden in the Central West of New South Wales, Australia, in what's considered to be a cool, temperate climate. We do get frosts down to -7 degrees Celsius in the winter, and our average summer temps can be in the mid-30s, although the hot weather is fairly rare in this part of the world. We're considered to be a sub-alpine climate. So this is the end of my first year growing cut flowers, and it's been a great first year, and a lot of the time has been spent trying new plants and seeing what works and what doesn't work in our climate. We don't have a lot of water, we don't have a high rainfall in this area, so looking at what plants succeed and what fail with the use of limited water, and also just expanding the garden, getting it set up. As you can see, I have a raised bed system that I like to use. So let's start with the tour. The first thing you'll notice is we have put down some chip. So I had to relent and purchase some bark chip. I wanted to get some of the paths finished before winter. Winter is the time that we get most of our rain, so I wanted to make sure things were tidy and not so boggy. They were a bit boggy last year, and this winter is expected to be quite wet. So I had to pay for this bark chip, but I'm hoping to get, and it did about half the farm, and it was a truckload, and I do lay it quite thick, and I'm hoping to get some free stuff fairly soon. The roses are still going strong. I've been very impressed with their growth in this first season. There are some particular ones I like more than others, and I have decided to expand my roses along the back fence. I'll show you the back fence in a minute. My husband is actually fencing me in. He's limiting my growth, which it needs to be, because there's a certain amount of flower farming I can do on a part-time basis. So along that back fence, I've ordered 24 climbing roses to grow along the fence to hide it a little bit. This section in here, this is my perennial section, and this is where I experiment with different perennials. My garden around my house is mostly perennials. I do love perennials, and I've just used this as a bit of an overflow area where I have limited space in my raised bed, so I try and put them out in this garden type setting. And I do cut from this area, not as much as the raised beds. So I've got a different collection of things in here. There's a few peonies, there's some geums. I did have these geums in, I think they're the Mai Tai geum, in a raised bed, but they were just taking up too much room. It's just amazing. That was one plant, and now I have divided it into 3 big sections. So the geums are great. I do love a good sanguisorba, and I have got every variety of sanguisorba I can get my hands on. They make a great cut flower. Pink Tanner is probably my favourite. I think that's the red Tanner, that one there. I do like sea holly as well. I have that here and in the raised beds. And this is also where I grow my eucalyptus. You can see from this area that we have a bit of an unsightly shed. That is currently where the dogs, we have working dogs, and they need to be kept enclosed when they're not working. Otherwise they love sheep so much they'll just want to get out and chase them all the time. So this is the dog run, and the dogs are moving, so I need to disguise this area. And along the back here, I actually have this in my garden. This is old man saltbush, which is an Australian native plant, and it'll actually grow up to the top of the fence. I do have clematis and climbing roses on here, so eventually I hope to somewhat disguise this. This area where the shed is going to be turned into a storage area, so we'll clean it all up. And my husband, who likes to collect, he's a typical farmer, bits and pieces. he can store it tidily in this section here. So I've got billy buttons and status and all sorts of things in here. I also have one of my favourite fillers here, which is solidago. I've got 3 plants in there. I have taken cuttings and I will put it in other sections of the garden. This perennial section is also my opportunity to grow South African natives and Australian natives, because this section of my property, as you can see from the bit behind, is on the crest of a hill. It's quite rocky, so it has excellent drainage. You'll notice I've got some billy buttons here that look fairly ordinary, and what's happened is I have transplanted those. They do look like they're dead, but trust me, they are not. You can transplant billy buttons. They will sulk for quite some time, and then as you can see down the side, they will come back. So I've got a range of things in here. I've got wax flowers and tea trees, eucalyptus, that's a king protea there with a bud. This is a fairly shaded spot because of this tree here. And I'm trying also to, if I have perennials in different spots, in full sun and part shade, their flowering time will also change. I will do a better video of the natives that I've got in this area because they're still quite small and hard to see on camera. I'm also making use of this shaded area by planting a whole range of hellebores. I don't know if you've seen that there's some absolutely beautiful double whites, apricots, creams, Picardy coloured hellebores available. If you haven't checked out the post office nursery, you need to do so. The range is out of this world, and I loved using hellebores last year, so I'm hoping these establish and I'll be able to use them in arrangements. So like I said, a bit hard to see, but I do have an interesting range of Australian natives in this section here. I've got quite a few Baronias. What's the name of that plant up there? Rice flower, all sorts of things going on here. And just seeing how they do. This is obviously quite a dry spot under this eucalyptus tree. The drainage is great. I just need some more mulch so I can fill in these sections here. You'll notice I do heavily mulch with lucerne, and that's the way I've always gardened. It's a way for me to combat weeds. So yeah, next season I'll do a better update and give you details on where I purchased these natives and what they are, what the flowers look like, because there's some amazing ones in there. Just want to show you before we leave this area, and it is a bit of a mess. I need to cut everything down now that we've had a frost. There's a I don't know if you can see it. There's one there. There's a eucalyptus there and a eucalyptus there that I didn't plant. They're actually from the tree behind me. So I'll need to probably chop them back and see what happens next year. Otherwise I need to take them out because they'll become huge. And my kangaroo paw, which I've never really had success in growing, is doing really well in these pots. And I just wanted to show you the flower. It's got quite a nice iridescent blue colour. Another part of the garden that I have recently expanded since the last video is this area where I've planted a bit of a wind buffer of South African natives mostly. I have some Australian natives, I have some tea trees in there because I love tea tree. It's a great addition to a native bouquet. But mainly they're all different types of proteas, leucadendrons. I have some interesting varieties. If you're looking to purchase South African natives Protea World, you can order 12 plants to a box, and they come to you and they're in great condition. I have lost very little. The only ones I have actually lost from this area are ones that have been eaten by stock, who have put their little heads over the fence and eaten my plants, but we're on the way to fixing that. We're going to put electric fence up. So yeah, this area was just a narrow strip along the fence, and I've now pushed it out and planted probably another 24 in here. And these ones I quite like. I'll put a picture up of what these look like. It's probably a bit hard to see, but those leucadendrons there end up with a little cone-like flower that almost looks like a conifer. So I thought they were really interesting. So obviously I've got room for a few more plants, and you'll notice here I've got some on the wrong side of the rocks. I need to shift those. We looked at the vehicle needs to get into this section in order to, you know, deal with providing mulch and hay and things. So I need to have some access, and of course out to this fence here, so that the garden was coming out a bit far, so I needed to fix that. We've also added some more beds. So this section of the garden is on the western side, so it cops the most sun, and I'm hoping that the windbreak of the proteas behind me provides a bit of summer protection eventually when it gets established. But these two beds here, these are extra peony beds. I do have some peonies coming. Again, if you want to know where to buy great peonies, I suggest Gateforth peonies in Tasmania. The roots that you get in autumn are huge, and they're good quality, well-priced peonies. We pay a lot for peonies in Australia, but if you can get your hands on some good ones, it's well worth it. So I've only got a few here in this section that I've transplanted, because I want to keep my peonies in their own beds. I made the mistake last year in these two peony beds here of trying to interplant. I do hate seeing empty space, so I had foxgloves and they just took over. So I pulled most of them out. I've got a little foxglove coming up there that I need to get rid of or dig out. So now all I've got in these beds are the peonies, and I do have some freesias and things around the edge, but they should be fine with the peonies. So for those of you that grow peonies, I heard an interesting tip this morning. Graham Ross is a radio presenter in Australia, and he has a gardening show on 2GB. It plays at 6 in the morning to 8, and I've got the world's most tolerant husband because he lets me wake up at 6 o'clock every morning and listen to a gardening show. Anyway, Graham was talking this morning about top dressing your peonies now with a mixture of blood and bone, sudden impact for roses, lime, garden lime, and potash. So powdered potash, not the liquid potash, and just top dressing your peonies. Your peonies probably look similar to mine. They look like they're dead, but they've just died back, ready for next year. And the idea is that this top dressing will sit there like blood and bone breaks down very slowly, so it'll be ready for use come spring. So that's an interesting tip, and I'm going to have a go at applying that this afternoon. I'm not sure if you heard that meowing, but my cat's got a mouse and it just wants to bring it over to show me. So yes, thank you, Bill. I don't want your mouse. Yeah, I appreciate it, but I don't want your mouse. A number of beds have been cleaned out. This was a bed with some zinnias in it and now has some anemones. I'm slowly top dressing all the beds with mulch, with hoo-flung dung, and just trying to consolidate the plantings a little better than I had them last year. Because last year was a bit of a trial year, I did have little patches of a lot of things, trying to find out what worked for me. I do have a bed of what I like to call hodgepodge here, which are mostly perennials. I've got the perennial baby's breath, which is currently in flower, which seems quite nice. I know it's a bit of a weed in other areas, and I have a few different perennials, like perennial phlox and bits and pieces in this area. A lot of my beds are taken up with perennials, such as you can see this area here, which is mostly perennial liliums. So those beds, I'm just cutting back the old lilium stalks, and those beds I've interplanted with larkspur. So hopefully I get a bit of dual action out of that use of the bed. In the back are still my dahlias, which I haven't cut back yet, even though they've just been hit by frost. So I've been collecting seeds off the dahlias for next year. And this is my tragic chrysanthemum bed. I grew chrysanthemums this year to trial to see what I liked and I didn't like. And I didn't cut a lot of them. And the lesson I've learnt is to better stake them. The frost has severely knocked them. So I'll cut all them back in the next couple of weeks and get ready for next year. Some more beds that we've added down at the bottom of the flower farm are now filled with ranunculus, and we have a couple of beds of lisianthus and also a delphinium called Morphodelphinium, silky white and silky blue. And these are plugs, and they are so tiny, and I didn't think they'd survive, but they're actually sending up new growth. I do need to water this morning. We've also got some kale that I grew from seed, and it's looking quite good. I'm excited to grow kale. It actually germinates really easily, so if you haven't tried kale, I definitely would give it a go. As long as you can keep the cabbage white butterfly off them, I think they'll work quite well. One of my main aims this coming season is to organise my beds a bit better. I do have beds that I want to permanently have planted with chrysanthemums and with dahlias. I had some cuttings of chrysanthemums here. There's ones I like more than others. I do like this. This is actually a disbud variety. I do like these big showy ones. The spider ones are nice. I've had a local florist say that she's interested in spider chrysanthemums. I like them as well. I think they look fantastic. I don't think they last as long as the other chrysanthemums in the vase, but I think you still get a good 2 weeks out of them. Here is my cotton. It was just a bit of a joke, really. See if I could grow it, see where I could get it to. I do have a bud on my cotton. I don't know how much longer I will have this plant for, especially now that we're getting frost, but it was fun to grow. The amaranth I'm just keeping here to collect seed. A few more chrysanthemums. These are actually, like I said, I didn't cut these, but these are beautiful. And I hope to take them, use them as mother plants and take cuttings and have this whole bed full of chrysanthemums for next year. I've had ongoing issues with my lisianthus in this bed. At first I thought I had a wilt or a fungal issue, which I don't. And then I thought I wasn't watering them enough, which I was. And now I've realised I actually have curl grub in this bed. I have a serious infestation of curl grub. I have put more lisianthus in this bed, so I need to treat. I don't like to treat insects. I usually just let them go, but with curl grub I need to do something, because what they do, the plant grows completely fine and then all of a sudden it wilts because the curl grub are eating the roots from underneath. So I'll probably use a neem product for that and just see how it goes. I do let my snapdragons go to perennialize in the beds. I do this in my garden, and I find the snapdragons in their second year are just a lot better than they are in their first year. This is another bed of Lisianthus, and I do have some cosmos coming up because there was cosmos here before, but I don't need to worry about weeding that. The frost will certainly sort that out. Another perennial bed here of liliums with a little bit of honesty intermixed. I've tidied up these sections here. I have some ranunculus that I grew from corms. You can see these look so much better than the ones that you get from plugs. So I'm looking forward to seeing the corms off the plug ranunculus, and I will be keeping those for next year. Some delphiniums, they look a bit scrappy and dead, but you can divide them and they will shoot from the roots. And some more delphinium. I've got to say I absolutely love delphinium. I've never grown it before, but it just flowers non-stop. I have cut this little patch back about half a dozen times, maybe more than that, during the growing season. And as long as I keep the water up to it, and I do top dress it with mulch a couple of times through the season, it just keeps performing. So in my eyes, delphinium is definitely a winner. I am keeping little patches of status. I will cut them back and see how they overwinter. I do have some apricot status growing from seed. These are my seed grown dahlias. I had some nice ones in here, and what I do is if one flowers and I don't like the look of the flower, I just pull it out, and then I will dig all these up and put them in my garden for next year. So this is my bed of straw flower. I pulled most of them out, and I've kept a few of the original plants in to see if they perennialise, and planted some seedlings around them. I think there's been a cat digging in that bed. These are my bulbs. My Dutch irises are all up. My granny's bonnets are looking great, and the daffodils are just coming through. My daffodils are interplanted with Nigella, and that worked quite well last year. Of course, this needs to come out. Some of the summer annuals, and then of course I top dress with Who Flung Dung. A little patch here of feverfew. The yellow one and the white one, I've grown some different varieties as well from seed, and I'm trying to overwinter my sweet volume and see how they go for next year. I have some ranunculus. These are plugs from Ball, and they seem to be going quite well with some new growth coming from those. This is my feverfew patch. I grew most of these from seed. These bigger plants that are in flower now, I actually took cuttings of those. Liatris here, which has just started to die off, but there's actually some good sized bulbs or corms in the Liatris, so I'm hoping in a couple of years I'll be able to dig them up and divide them. I grew the Liatris by seed. It grows quite easily. It's a good one to have. So this is some of my consolidation of plants. I had some yarrow in a couple of different spots, and I have yarrow in the garden and it takes over. It's a bit of a bully in the garden, so I thought I would put it all in one bed, and it can just, it can just do its thing and be somewhat contained. So I do have a bit of the pearl yarrow here, and then I just have the traditional yarrow and some more pearl yarrow on the end. I do have other different types of yarrow, but they're non-invasive types, whereas this one tends to just put its little runners out and go mad. But it's worthwhile having yarrow. If you can keep it contained, it's a good addition. There is actually a pink variety of pearl yarrow that I've talked about before, and I've taken cuttings of that and I've planted that in the garden, it makes quite a nice cut. So there's some good ones to try. If you're looking for the pink pearl yarrow, I got mine from Woodbridge Perennials in Tassie. And he also has the pearl yarrow as well if you're interested, although it grows very easily from seed. So it was Mother's Day recently, and I got quite a nice Mother's Day gift. I got a HoseLink hose reel, and it came with these extra accessories, which I just want to show you because I think they're amazing. This is just a little trigger nozzle, like mixer siphon tube, so you can put your sea salt or whatever you need to put in here, and it tells you how much to put in for the dilution rates, and you just attach it to your hose. That's great. It also came with a sprinkler with a number of different sprinkler settings, so that was great. And this is the one I'm most excited about. So we have a mixture of bore water, which has a lot of calcium in it, and we use dam water and tank water. So especially with the bore water, what I find is if I buy a wand or anything for watering that has any rubber components, they clog up with the calcium really quickly, and I'm forever having to put them in vinegar and to clean them out. This is just simply like a sieve, and there's no rubber other than the little flange around the outside to clog up. So this should work really well with our bore water. So that was pretty exciting. And I'm also looking to this season put in an irrigation system, because currently I'm watering by hand and it takes me about 2 hours to water. I need to water this morning, and if I have an issue, like at the moment I'm using bore water, and the cows knocked they use the bore water as well, and they knocked the plug out of one of the water troughs and they emptied the bore tank. So I have to wait until the bore tank refills. We've got a solar pump down near the bore, so it makes watering can be a bit of a challenge. So I'm thinking about putting in an irrigation system that I can run off dam water, tank water and bore water. And because of the bore, we're going to use overhead sprinklers. So I've got a fellow coming out from Water Martin Bathurst, and he's going to tell us exactly what we need to do. So I will do a video on that if anyone's in the same situation as me. So Michael will put in the HoseLink hose reel for me today, I hope, this afternoon. So then I can also clean up a bit of this mess in the garden with hoses sitting around everywhere. So I'm looking forward to that. So I've now emptied these beds. So if you haven't been watching before, I had these beds filled with a lot of grains. I had wheat, which I used in arrangements, oats, teff, and lots of other things. And I've pulled them all out now, and I've fed them to the ducks. And I'll be using these beds now. I've got garlic to plant, and I'm going to plant some more onion sets. So these will be filled up for use over winter, and I'll have to think about what other things I want to try in there for next year as far as grains are concerned. So this little section of the garden, this is the last bit I'll show you today, is there's a strainer post obviously here, and it's a bit of a useless space in this area. And I've also got this fence, so don't forget this paddock 12 months ago, this area here was a sheep paddock. So I am battling with the weeds, and that's why the growth is not super impressive. So this area here, I've decided that I want to disguise this fence a little bit. So I've got some perennials in here and some irises. I'm going to try irises as cut flowers this year. I know they don't last that well, and they can be a little bit of high maintenance as far as removal of the old buds, but I thought I'd give them a go. And this old galvanized milking bucket, it's got a hole in the bottom, so it's full of bulbs. So that's it. Look at that rose. So nice. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. That was a rather quick tour. I just wanted to quickly show you what changes we have made recently to the flower farm and to give you a bit of an update. I hope you enjoyed. I need to mow my lawn today, and I need to start cutting back and mulching my perennial garden. My house garden has been neglected since I started the flower farm, but now things are tucked up and tidy on the flower farm. I can really focus on my garden because it's a bit of an embarrassment. But hopefully in spring I'll be able to take you on a tour and show you my garden. It's quite large. It's about 1.5 acres, so I think you'll enjoy that. But in the meantime, get out there. It's a beautiful day today, and happy gardening. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.